Today we've got a crazy revenge story on a wedding guest who wants to sleep with the fiancé. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, she mocked me in front of the class, so I called her a freaking stupid witch. Teacher ended up reporting her. Since our prep courses, my class rep has been low-key bullying me, condescending comments, mocking my questions, the whole I'm better than you energy. We ended up in the same group and I kept it chill, but she stayed passive-aggressive. Today, the teacher moved our seats and I politely asked her what seat number she had. Instead of answering, she sneered, "The chairs are right there. Count them. Don't you know how to count?" Totally mocking, loud enough for everyone. I snapped and said, "Freaking stupid witch, I asked what number you had, not if I know how to count." She stormed off, screamed at the teacher and tried to get me in trouble. Classic victim move. Plot twist, the teacher was already fed up with her attitude and she got reported instead. She cried. I stayed calm. My mom shrugged and said she would have said worse. A bunch of classmates later told me that they were glad someone finally said it. Not elegant, not proud, definitely petty, but satisfying? 10 out of 10. So after reading this story, I'm just sitting here thinking, is this not on the teacher to begin with? Like, I'm glad that the teacher finally did something about that kid acting out in class, but if it got to the point where everybody else was basically like, yeah, we're glad somebody finally spoke back in regards to what OP did, then what was the teacher doing the whole time? Just watching, not really wanting to do their job? Are they the kind of teacher that just teaches through work packets? Here's your next week of learning, slaps the paper on your desk. Lucina Sardothian commented, "Love what the teacher did. My 6th grade teacher, who I loved and admired, knew about my bully since I told her and so had my parents. She knew she had bullied me for years and lied about me countless of times, and still, when my bully lied about me stealing money at a school event, I wasn't. I was literally using my lunch money, and the money from the event I had in a separate box to give to the teacher at the end. She literally snatched the box from my hands, gave it to my bully, and told her not to let me touch it again, and that she was now in charge of the money, completely taking her side. I can still remember something inside of me broke that day. She knew my family, my parents knew her family even before she became a teacher, and she still took my bully's side because my bully was the typical popular kid with good grades that was always charming to the teachers, and I was just a normal kid with average grades." From Anderson commented, "What is it with teachers? My 1st grade teacher was physically abusive. I was really tiny for my age. That woman shook me so violently that my head hurt really bad. I remember crying for a long time. She must have realized she went too far because she took me out in the hall and told me that my parents would be really mad at me if they found out how angry I'd made her. I was an adult before I realized that she could have ended me, and when she realized I was in pain, she didn't get me help. She gaslit me into not telling my parents." In 4th grade, I had a classmate who'd lost his mom and had to move into a tiny mobile home with his grandma. He wasn't adjusting to the loss, nor his sudden poverty well. He was super sensitive to the whole trailer trash thing. Of course, that's what she started calling him. She used every excuse to call him worthless and tell him he was trash and would never amount to anything. It culminated with her picking him up one day and setting him down in the class trash can. Kid had to be all of 10 years old and the trash can was a bit too tall to climb out of without turning it over. She went all out that day and then ordered the rest of the class to make paper wads and throw them at the poor kid while she led a sing-song chant of "Kid name is trash," straight out of some 1950s sitcom nightmare sequence. Even at that age, I knew it was super messed up and I still remember the look on his face. We were all terrified of her. All the way up to graduation, I never once saw any teacher so much as lift a finger to help a kid who was being bullied, even when they literally begged. They always had time to punish the victim the moment they stood up for themselves or made a scene. Then when the poor kid pled their case, they'd always trot out, "You should have told us," as if that very teacher hadn't ignored them for months. I could go on, but suffice it to say that even decades later, I still get riled at the way we were treated. The thought of someone doing things like that to my nieces and nephews make my blood boil. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of revenge, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. Our next story is, be entitled over a free plane ticket home? Enjoy the multi-stop and bus ticket home. So this happened during COVID. For some context, I was based in Hong Kong at the time, and the lady involved was in China, Beijing, trying to get home to South Africa to avoid lockdown, so the destinations are South African. So my wife and I are good at saving, and we were planning to go home for the Easter holidays, but unfortunately due to lockdown, we couldn't. Now I was part of an expat group, and many people were stuck as they had just arrived in China, often with little money, and now needed to get back home. So my wife and I decided to help some people get home. We helped 10 people get back home. We didn't expect to be paid back, however, most people did over time. Now, there was one lady, let's call her Mel. Mel was stuck in Beijing and needed to buy a ticket home, but she had no money due to circumstances, etc., so I contacted her and offered her a ticket home. She gladly accepted. I told her this is my budget and I'll work within that budget. Now, one thing to note is that rather than send money, I would book the ticket for the person. Mel demanded that I book a direct flight from Beijing to Johannesburg and then book a regional flight to East London. Now, both are very expensive. I offered to book a cheaper indirect flight via Dubai or Ethiopia, so the flight would be 3 legs instead of 2. Now, Mel was having none of this and basically said it's direct as possible or nothing. So I ignored her for a week or so and helped someone else who was extremely grateful. Within a week before lockdown happened, Mel frantically contacted me and said she would take any flight. Now the petty revenge, I obliged with a 3-stop itinerary. Think 40 hours, with the final stop in Johannesburg, the main city. The kicker? I booked a bus ticket, 20 hours, for the leg from Johannesburg to East London. Mel kept me updated and was livid the whole time. I didn't get paid back, but the messages I got after her trip were gold. When she found out that I'd booked her a bus ticket for the final leg, she was broken at this point. How's OP gonna go and tease us about these golden messages that they got after the fact, or even the updates they got during the trip, and then not share them, or at least try to recollect them? They're probably not the most safe for work friendly messages or whatnot, but I kinda wanna hear what she had to say. And to be fair, years removed from the fact, I would imagine she would look back on that, and even though it took days and days to get where she wanted to go, I imagine she still must feel slightly grateful for being able to get back during COVID. PH TARDIS commented, "I applaud this. You were far too generous, and she had 20 hours to consider what she did wrong." OP responded commenting, "With 40 hours of reflection too." Our next story is, steps in front of me at checkout, now wait while I put your shopping cart behind your car. Just happened at the Stater Bros in my neighborhood. Big girl and I reach the checkout counter. I'm there first, and she pretends to not see me and then steps in front and puts her items down. I say out loud, "So you're going to pretend I'm not here?" Still pretends to not see or hear me. I'm 6'4"-ish, 255 pounds. Hard not to see me. Anyways, we're in the express lane. She's done, I'm done. As I'm walking to the car, big girl leaves her shopping cart in the stall next to her car instead of pushing it 10 feet to the cart drop. I yell at her as I'm walking to my car. The cart drop is right behind her. Again, she pretends to not hear or see me. So I said, "Don't worry, I'll get the cart for you." I take the cart and place it directly behind her car as she starts to back out. As she rolls her window down, I say, "Bet you see me now," and walked off. Do you guys think it was necessary for OP to say big girl multiple times here? Regardless, I am a firm believer you put the cart back in the cart corral or cart drop or whatever you want to call it. I think the only time I may consider it is if they have a big parking lot but they don't actually have any cart lanes. I would definitely be too ashamed to do it at a small family grocer or something, but if I'm in some place and I gotta walk way out to my car and there's just nowhere to put the cart, I mean, that kinda sucks. Gutsy Radio 13 commented, "Had an old lady at Walmart call me a freaking jerk the other day because I stopped backing out of my parking spot to let some people pass who came walking by with their carts. She was mad that she had to wait for me to finish backing out to keep walking herself. I rolled down my window and asked her if she wanted me to hit those people. She just started cursing like an idiot." Our next story is the stupidest little petty thing. When I walk in the city, I walk on the right-hand side of the sidewalk. This often means that I'm walking along the front of the buildings, so I do my best to stick to them. I also refuse to unstick myself from the path that keeps me essentially brushing up against the buildings. This makes sure that everyone else has plenty of room on the sidewalk to pass around me if they think I'm slow or not bump into me if they're coming the other direction. The one time it didn't work out as planned, I was out in the city with my spouse and we were showing my brother around. They're ahead and I'm sticking to the wall and notice a middle-aged man doing the same. I think, no big deal, he'll move when we get closer, but he didn't. When he was a foot in front of me, he stopped, and I stopped not to crash into him. He grins at me with a mouthful of yellow and rotten teeth and speaks, "Hi there." I say, hello? He says, "What's your name?" I said, "That isn't any of your business." He said, "Oh, really?" At this point, he was trying to stand over me, either creep me out or intimidate me, and I said, "Yep, have a good day. Bye." I proceed to lean against the wall and take out my phone and start texting. He glared and finally began to walk around me, seeing that I wasn't moving. He shouted at me as he left, which I expected, but I thought he was just going to throw slurs at me. He said, "You know what we call people like you? Petty." And that got me laughing as I brought it up with my group. The stupidest, pettiest thing. Edit, for those concerned, the rule has exceptions. Elderly, disabled, people sleeping on the sidewalk, dog wanting to be in the shade, etc. Mainly this rule is for able-bodied adults. I like rules, but I'm not an unfeeling robot. Am I the odd one out for saying it's really just not that serious and OP could have just gone around? That as annoying as it is if people are coming the opposite way and they don't realize they're taking up too much space, it's not the end of the world to just step around them. Granted, if I was having a pretty crappy day, I probably would want to barrel straight through them. Jam Donut 28 commented, "When I was in my 20s, a friend introduced me to a points-based game where every time you walked towards someone in a crowded place, you played the game. I really wish I'd kept track of all of the rules over the years, but I have a memory that each flinch or sidestep being worth a point, them bumping you was worth additional points, and if they apologized, that was worth maximum points. I also remember that you lost points if you apologized to them. Looking back, I think we were all very petty and irritating playing it as a game, but it was a lot of fun at the time." Our next story is, I cyberbullied a bunch of teenagers, and I don't regret it. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. My family adopted 2 boys. When they came to us, they were 10 and 15. They spent 7 years of their life in the system, and they had a rough story behind them to begin with. I became very close to them, especially with the youngest, M. After a while, M begins confessing a few things to me. There's this group of teens aged 13 to 16 who are bullying him and his friends. These guys pick on anyone smaller than them. They ask for money, they try to instigate fights, they say some pretty racist stuff and make fun of M for being adopted. A couple of years back, they ended in the paper because they beat up a 10-year-old to the point of sending him to the hospital. And another one pulled out a sharp object on a kid way younger than him. Bottom line, they're jerks, and I begin to loathe them through M's stories. Of course, what can I do? I'm 10 years older. Talking to them or their parents is no use because they obviously don't care. I can't just go and beat up some minors. Then M tells me about this new trend. I'm not English, but let's call it cutting. Basically, you take someone's pic, you write some pretty mean stuff about them on it, and you put it on TikTok. Once that's done, the guy's been cut, and apparently that's pretty humiliating. After some consideration, my plan set into motion. I made a fake Instagram profile, followed the bullies, took screens of their photos, and edited them to make them look stupid. For the little jerk who carries a knife around, I put makeup on him, and then I wrote some mean stuff on it without going too far and posted it. Boom, 3,000 views in under 1 hour. Then came the comments. People were laughing, some of the victims tried acting tough in the comments, but the damage had been done. I waited. 2 weeks pass and M comes to show me the cutting. I played dumb, of course, and had him explain the practice to me again. Apparently, the bullies are now being made fun of because of what I wrote. And not only, a rumor started that jerk number 1 liked dressing up as a girl and wearing makeup because of the edit I made, which actually was not my intention, but knowing how humiliating that would be for the little jerk, I'm so glad. I made sure M wouldn't be suspected, which is unlikely anyways given the amount of people these guys have bullied in the past years. Am I a bad person? Yes. Do I feel bad? Maybe. Maybe not. I mean, maybe you could twist this to look at it as like a very indirect way of saying it takes a village. You know, if their parents won't raise them, the public shame might set into them a little bit more. Now, will it make them actually reform? Probably not, but at least it kind of puts a stick in their spokes for now. Rex128 commented, I once name dropped someone's grandma because they were idiot kids who don't know how easily they can be found online on their hateful troll comment, and I've never seen a kid delete their whole account so fast. Others in tuxedos commented, "I think you should probably feel bad. It doesn't seem like you did this in a way that the children would even learn from it. This isn't a fun kind of petty." Our next story is, my aunt used my favorite sauce, so I swapped it out. See, I have this one sauce I always buy when I go shopping, or specifically out to Costco. It's delicious, like soy sauce but less salty and more versatile. One day I grabbed a bottle of my holy ambrosia and noticed like 1/4 of it was entirely gone. These bottles are big too, like 34 fluid ounces, 964 grams for the Europeans, so naturally I was shocked. I've never used this much in even 3 days, let alone one, so I asked around a little and lo and behold, my aunt openly admitted to it. I decided not to call her out, which in hindsight would have been the better thing to do, and instead decided to grab my sauce and pour out half the bottle, replacing it with soy sauce. Now, admittedly, I love soy sauce as well, but my aunt does not. Bakkens is just mellow enough for her to use it on anything. They looked almost identical, so I left the bottle in the fridge and waited to see if she would take the bait. Of course, she did. If she didn't, I wouldn't be typing this right now. I swear, when I came downstairs to make myself dinner, she was practically drowning herself in water. I swear, can nobody take saltiness anymore? Edit, since someone asked, she lives with me. This wasn't the first time she did this, and she knows I like this sauce and doesn't want others using it, and I've told her before not to use it. I've even suggested buying her own bottle so she won't use mine. I mean, it's nice to get revenge and all and show them that they shouldn't be using OP's things, especially if OP was the one that bought it themselves. But did OP not kind of ruin that bottle for themselves? Even if they like soy sauce, it's like half and half. OP can like Bakkens or whatever it is, OP can like soy sauce, but does OP like the 50-50 combination? Which specific 9891 commented, "You dumped out half the bottle of the one you like, instead of just telling her to stop? You played yourself." Our next story is, do you actually remove all the stuff from the shower when you clean it? Yeah, now enjoy having all of your shower stuff put back in the wrong spot. I clean houses for a living. It's not glamorous, but I get to set my own hours, so I'm home with my kid. I have a few great clients, and I have some that cannot be so great sometimes. Yesterday, I was cleaning someone's bathroom and she very snarkily, is that even a word, said, "Do you actually remove all that stuff?" gesturing at all the bottles of shampoo and body wash, "when you clean it?" I told her of course I did, and she was like, "Oh, just making sure," and walks off. See, I take a lot of pride in my work. I do my best to put back everything exactly where I get it, so the next time the client uses the shower, everything's where they left it. For some reason, just her accusatory tone kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I always leave her shower spotless and draining better since I always snake the drain. This time, I wasn't so careful when I put stuff back and switched the order of things. Everything was back on the correct shelf, but the shampoo would be switched with the conditioner. Yes, this was petty, and it wasn't my best moment. I try not to let these comments get to me. She's one of those people that spend too much time online and probably see those stupid clean talk videos as well. The way OP feels about that accusatory tone and not wanting to do things perfectly after that is exactly how I felt growing up. When I was almost about to do something and then my mom would come in and say, "Hey, you should do that thing." It's like, well, now I don't want to, thanks a lot. I'm gonna put off putting the dishes away a little bit longer now. I'll wallow in my filth just to spite them. Organic Mix 9422 commented, "I did cleaning as a sole parent for a while. I had one woman who insisted I use bleach, disinfectant, and ammonia to wash the floors. I tried explaining why it wasn't a good idea, especially with 2 small children. She looked at me like I was scum and told me I would do as she said. She went out, I didn't do as she said, and also never went back." OP responded commenting, "I freaking hate clean talk for it normalizing mixing different cleaners to get better results. Instead of better results, they create chlorine gas. I had to explain this to someone after I was ordered to bleach some cabinets that, unbeknownst to me, were covered in mouse pee. The second I caught a whiff of pee after I started cleaning, I lost my temper with the guy." Our next story is, mildly inconveniencing wedding guest who wants to freak my fiance. This is petty and stupid. I would like to think that I'm a bigger person than this, but it seems it's not the case. Guess I'm in the right place to share my little confession. I, early 30s female, am marrying my fiancé this week, early 30s male. He's the most wonderful and amazing person in the universe, but he's also extremely oblivious, socially awkward, probably on the autism spectrum. Boy just cannot pick up a hint. He also works with a relatively small group of people, and they get along great. They usually go for after-office drinks one Friday a month. Since we moved across the country a couple of years ago, we haven't made a lot of friends. So basically, these coworkers are currently my fiance's closest group of friends. There's this one girl in this group, let's call her Daisy, late 30s, who has an evident massive crush on my fiance. I must say, I don't blame her. My fiancé is in tech and makes good money, wicked smart, tall, hot, nice, funny, interesting, and sweet. She has great taste in men. I've been a part of a few of their get-togethers, and this woman acts like a teen girl with him. She giggles and literally twirls her hair. Whenever she laughs, she puts her hand on his arm, once even his knee, always tries to sit right next to him, etc. When I pointed it out, he said he hadn't realized, and then made a face like, gross, and said, I'll make sure to sit away from her. Before anyone does the Reddit thing, no, he's not cheating on me or into her or secretly encouraging it. We both work from home. We spend all day together, every day. I have full access to his phone, accounts, am friends with some of the other people who join those monthly after-office drinks. My fiancé is also extremely loyal. He doesn't do the typical things of following random women on Instagram. He's always talking about me. He's not a freak boy. He doesn't like attention. Doesn't like strangers touching him. I actually saw him lean away when she sat next to him and straight up jerk away when she touched his knee. Additionally, he adores me. I even feel silly having to justify his loyalty, but I know how Reddit is. The man bakes me cookies and brushes my hair when I'm sad. He's a saint. Anyways, our wedding is very soon. It'll be a small, intimate thing, only 35 people or so. We have a few gluten-intolerant guests, including Daisy, so we're doing cake for everyone, and special gluten-free cupcakes for these guests. We found a very nice boutique bakery that makes super tasty and safe gluten-free cupcakes. Literally the best in the province, one of my gluten-intolerant friends said. One of our guests has proper celiacs, and she needs it to be like one molecule and I end up in the hospital levels of safe. So we're getting all the cupcakes for our gluten-free guests there. This place, however, only has 2 cupcake flavors, chocolate or caramel. We asked each guest which flavor they would prefer, and they all said chocolate except for Daisy, who asked for caramel. She doesn't like chocolate and never eats it. I know she's not allergic or intolerant. I checked and got a list of all of her allergies when we confirmed her meal for our joint bachelor and bachelorette party. I was about to place the order when I received a text. Long story short, I found out that Daisy was planning on wearing white to the wedding and her +1 friend, another girl, was gonna wear beige. Of course, I went to tell my fiancé, and he said, what a freaking butt hat, and nipped that in the bud immediately. He straight up told them that it was super rude, and that if they showed up wearing white, beige, cream, ivory, bone, super light pastels, very light gray, any other complicated way of saying white, they would not be let in. Daisy complained that it was just a white blouse, I'll wear peach pants, and he told her, no white at all of any shade, anywhere. You're being rude to even consider it. The dress code is wear whatever you want except white. You can show up in flip-flops if you want. Why would you want to wear the one thing that's not allowed? She pouted, said her +1 was sad because she only looks good in light beige, but alright. He considered uninviting her, but I told him not to do it or it could cause drama with the rest of the friend group, that we'll make sure that the guard at the gate won't let her in if she's wearing anything too light. And my friends all volunteered to shower her in red wine if she dares. I'm also overall a very chill person. If she actually showed up wearing white, I would laugh my butt off. She'd be shaming herself in public. Anyways, I went back to placing the cupcake order and just asked for all chocolate cupcakes. I guess it just slipped my mind to order a caramel one. Oops. Oh well, who doesn't love chocolate anyway? I love this story because it actually does make me curious how many people out there either are allergic to chocolate or don't like chocolate. It was always crazy to me growing up in school where we would have days where cupcakes were brought out and they always had to have the vanilla ones because there were always like 1 or 2 kids per class that were like, no, I don't like chocolate. I mean, I get it. Everyone genuinely does have different tastes and experiences. Maybe it's tied to a bad memory, who knows? But it always was like a, they really don't like chocolate, huh? Kind of thing. Junkster Yoey commented, to prevent collateral to what seems like an awesome bakery, make sure it's we forgot because wedding planning is stressful and not darn the bakery messed up. Also, if I loved caramel and hated chocolate but heard this was all happening, best believe I'm picking chocolate to ensure this goes as planned. Congrats on your wedding. OP responded commenting, for sure, haha, little old me just messed up the order. Oops. Our next story is, an old manager of mine snubbed me while talking to my spouse. Today, I was vindicated. For context, I work in the service industry. This manager was barely a manager and was kind of an assistant supervisor of mine, but I was her coworker for a while, about a year or so. Eventually, she got fired for drinking on the job. Best way I can describe her, didn't do crap, was always drunk and playing music extra loud in the dining room and twerking while doing it. She got her position because her friend was the big boss, but literally for no merit of her own. She's a trust fund kid in the worst kind of way, and her hobbies include getting drunk at every bar in town, throwing herself at every man she can, etc. My spouse is a bartender, working at the same place as I do, same place she did before getting fired. And one night recently, she came and sat at his bar and asked him if he was still with that girl he was dating, referring to me, but not using my name as if I were some random person. I don't remember the context of the conversation, but at the time he told me about it, it felt like a jab. By the way, she knows my name, spent more time around me than him when we all worked there. Every time she's run into me prior to this, she's always given me that fake, oh hi, OP's name. So anyways, this didn't sit well with me, and I never forgot it. And I know that if there's a one thing this lady wants, it's attention. So tonight, I saw her out and about, the first time I've seen her since she snubbed me to my partner, and she gave me the usual fake greeting, but I did what I knew would send the loudest message. I pretended I forgot who she was. After she greeted me, I was like, oh hey, how's it going? I'm sorry, but it seems I've forgotten your name. What was it again? The look on her face, it was priceless, and it felt so good. You know, this is almost sort of like that childhood tactic you use against a bully. The one where like they're calling you names and trying to rile you up and instigate you. So you kind of just gray rock them, ignore them, act like it doesn't affect you. You don't give them ammo or attention, and it's going to disappoint them. Houston 970 commented, ha, it really upsets them when they think they're so important that you could never forget them. I did that to my childhood bully at my dad's wake. She came through the receiving line and I just non-committally said, thank you for coming. And she kept saying, it's me, bully's name. And I just looked at her blankly. When I stepped out of line a little while later, I made sure she was nearby to hear one of my friends ask, who was that? And my response was, I have absolutely no idea. One of my friends heard her complain 2 years later at a high school reunion that I hadn't recognized her, so it clearly upset her. LCD Ambrose commented, I do the same to my ex, specifically by treating her like I would a customer. Like, she's not stupid, she knows that I know who she is, but it drives her crazy when she tries to initiate conversation and I say things like, is there anything I can do to help you? Or, glad you could come tonight, and then walk away. If she wanted to have a pleasant speaking relationship with me, then she should have been more pleasant when speaking to me during our relationship. Our next story is, performer didn't realize I was the manager. Some years ago, my partner and I managed a bar and we had live acts every Friday night. We had inherited a few bookings from the previous managers, but we honored the bookings. One night, we had a comedian who before us had performed regularly at the bar. Anyway, at the time, I was dressed like a student and had long dyed hair. The regulars all knew I was a manager and had no problems with my appearance. The comedian starts his act and spots me collecting glasses and proceeds to complain about students, how lazy they are, look at this one, can't get a proper job, what's with her hair, etc. No laughter, so he carries on laying into me. I smile and continue working. After the set, I walk over to give him his cash and he's already got more dates to book with us. The joy is I said, "No thanks, I'm the manager and I will never book you again." Watching his face fall was beautiful. You gotta love a good surprise manager, surprise owner type of story. Actually, I call the shots around here and I never want to see your mug again. I mean, I know a big part of being a comedian is going all in and committing to the bit and all, but nobody was laughing. Why would you keep tearing into that one waitress that's just doing their job? I mean, in a place like that, they're kind of like half of the backbone of your act, the service. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.